recreate the scene in Antarctica where the guy took out his own appendix. So that will require some mannequins dressed in medical garb and lots of corn syrup and baby shampoo, fake blood. Okay, because you don't want to use real blood because real blood dries and gets sticky. Whereas the fake blood, I mean, it will also dry, but it'll keep that kind of glossy sheen throughout the evening. Whereas uh, real blood on Halloween night will get, well, real blood on any night will get crusty and sticky in a way that's not aesthetic, not to the aesthetic that you need. So use fake blood. Um, I suggest a recipe of baking baby shampoo, okay, and corn syrup, okay, with some green and some a little bit of green and some red. So you got like kind of deeper red color, and a mannequin dressed up like the was he a Russian? Took out his own appendix in Antarctica because there was no one else to do it that had the requisite skills to take out his appendix except for him. So that's a real biting down on a wooden spoon situation because there was also no painkillers because he wanted to be mentally and emotionally at 110%, so he couldn't be hopped up on goofballs, as it were. Uh, and I believe that that was a successful operation, and he recreates it every year for his friends. Like, not now, he's dead now, but for many years he recreated that scene for his friends and family. And I would like to honor that medical profession by recreating that. Like, I have a mise en scene, have what's it called? Not with the baby Jesus and everyone all around in the barn, but it's when you said it's like a diorama. I'm looking for the word of a giant diorama, but it's called a, I don't remember what it's called, but that's what I'm trying to set up in my yard. Okay, and there's a lot of pluses to it. It's not too scary because obviously it's fake. Who's going to take out their own appendix? Little do they know that it was based on a true story. But also, it honors the medical profession. So if there's any young individual out there who is wondering what to do with their life, they walk by my house looking for full size O. Henrys, and they'll see, oh, maybe I want to be a doctor, or maybe I want to work in, fake blood, which is also a thing that you can do. So that's honoring the medical profession, and it's probably closest to being a doctor that my dad would have to be satisfied with. That's the closest I'm ever going to get to being a doctor. Uh, I think he knows now that I'm not a doctor, because he's got the vantage point, okay, higher than the rest of us. Uh, doesn't mean he knows everything, okay? He's still figuring some stuff out back there, up there, but yeah, probably the closest I'll ever be to being a doctor is, well, wait a minute, that means that I have to dress up in the medical equipment. And okay, so this is what it's gonna be. Is it's gonna be me lying on the lawn. See, but I don't trust the children of the neighborhood to not to try and tie me up or mess me up in some other way because I've been pretty angry lately at them, and I could see how Halloween would be a good chance for them to come back. Always trying to dare each other to knock on my door just 'cause I live in a haunted house. Like, okay, when you live in a haunted house, you think of a certain things. Like, there's going to be ghosts and poltergeist activity, and there's always going to be forks on the floor, and there's going to be knobs, okay, moving around, and it's other assorted poltergeist things like that. But you don't anticipate that you're going to have neighborhood children in your life who uh, who you want to eat, but you can't, okay, because you're a vegetarian now. Uh, and also, I suppose it's morally wrong on this plane of existence. Obviously, where I'm from, in the stories, they ate kids all the time, and those stories were always based on some kind of fact. Uh, so I'm assuming at some point people ate. Okay, now this is turning into a big thing, but I can say this that we generally don't treat children well, and we subject them to all sorts of horrible things like dioramas of doctors taking out their own appendices and stuff like that. Appendices? Can you say that? Multiple appendixes? Or it's a doctor, haha, and he's taking out all his works cited from all the papers he's written. So it's gonna be me, I guess. I'm gonna have to also dress because inevitably it'll snow, and it always snows on Halloween. It ruins your costume because you got to put a parka on over top, or God forbid you should try and put a parka on and then put your costume on over top of the parka. You look like a marshmallow man, unless that's your costume. But then every year you have to be a marshmallow man, and it's boy, you sure like Ghostbusters. Well, yeah, I mean it's a fine film, but it's really more because I have to wear my parka, and the only parka I have is this white one from Winners, that has a stain on it, which is more traditionally something that you'd see maybe at a Goodwill or other secondhand clothing store. But for some reason, at the Winners, oh, it's because it was a manufacturer defect and not a post purchase stain of macaroni and cheese. Okay, so that yellow came from a malfunctioning dye gun or something like that, and not from cheese powder and a baby wiping it on your jacket. So I'll have to lie there. So you have to also have in the Halloween night, it's going to be cold. So you got those pouches in your hands and feet. Not in your hands and feet, but in your shoes and your gloves. Oh, oh, you got those pouches. You break them apart, not like you crack them inside their pouch, and they produce a chemical reaction that produces heat. And that heat will keep your toesies and your fingies, okay, real warm that night. Now, what you could do is instead of a gaping bloody hole where the appendix was, you could put your candy bowl in there and dress it up as if the children are reaching in. That's a little bit. It's a little bit intimate. Maybe you don't want kids reaching around you like that because one of them's gonna give you a sucker punch in the nuts. You just know it, right? So you got to protect yourself. So, but the original idea was to put the candy bowl inside my abdomen in some way, so that instead of my blood and guts from replacing my own appendix in Antarctica at the Antarctic base, it would be a bowl of Mars bars and dollar coins, which I know are disappointing, but I gotta get rid of them somehow. So that's what Halloween is for sometimes. I'm not gonna make popcorn balls this year because nobody ate them, even though they're very yummy. But nobody makes, food anymore, which is fine. I suppose more popcorn balls for me. So, in summary, I'd like to say that the Halloween contest is going to be uh, me in the yard recreating the scene of taking out my own appendix in Antarctica. Um, I'd like to get also my friends dressed up like medical equipment so that they can stand there and go beep, 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 beep. And then, if we've really got it together, then maybe I could rhythmically, if I put a washboard, oh, that would be interesting. Instead of the candy in my abdomen, put a washboard there, and we could become like a little jug band. So if you have a hankering to help an individual with their condo board Halloween contest and hand out candy at the same time, okay, come on down to my house, which is 1220212 Unit A. Okay, 56 Spark Street, Ottawa. Okay, and come on down, and you can help me out by being a medical machine. Uh, you don't really help with the surgery because if we're recreating it faithfully, it was only the one individual who surgered on himself, as it were. So you wouldn't have any hands, but you could be other things like trees. Everyone gets a part in the Halloween pageant. Okay, trees. You could be a tree. Maybe not in Antarctica. A penguin, perhaps a penguin wandered in to the operating theater. You could say that. Okay. Iceberg. You could be an iceberg dead ahead. Okay. Uh, what other things? Medical equipment. Beep beep beep. I could be a giant scalpel. Like you wouldn't want a real edge on that scalpel. It's more like a foam edge, but it's really recreating the scene. Uh, and or you could hand out candy. And so come on down to 56 Park Street, okay, Unit 2, and we will get ready. Have a couple meetings before Halloween, just just to get the hang of it, and then we'll have a couple of dry runs where we'll be giving out not Halloween candy because it's not Halloween, but like different favors like meats and cheeses. You can put a little charcuterie board in my abdomen, and you have to see again with the abdomen. You know what I should do instead is I really have a hankering to put the candy or whatever else I have on offer into the abdomen as it pretending it's part of the body. So instead, I think I'm just going to have to build not a life-size replica person, but maybe like my mouth's getting really dry. Uh, like a bigger something bigger, like a giant version of that. And so so if it was like 20 feet tall, you could fit a lot of things in an abdomen that big. A cheese board, a meat board, candy. Now you want to leave your meat and cheese board supervised. You don't want a bunch of meats and cheeses out on Halloween night because the magpies are going to get them. And you think traditionally magpies aren't active at night, but if there was a meat and cheese plate outside their nest, you bet they would be. Okay, with bells on, as it were. They'd be there eating your meat and cheese. And it's not really a time for magpies. Okay, although, yes, like, I mean, technically, Halloween can be a time for magpies because they're Halloweenish. Okay, and quite smart. But you don't want a bunch of magpies scaring the kids away. So, I guess candy is the best option, or if you're going to have a charcuterie, be there to shoo away the birds, okay? And any of the neighborhood dogs that should. I mean, most of the dogs in the neighborhood are on a leash and they're well tended, but you never know when one might like escape their owner and come on over and eat the meats and cheeses, and then of course the owner will say, "Well, thank you so much for having this charcuterie board out on Halloween, because otherwise my dog would have run away down the street." But instead, it just went a few houses down and started eating your Piavo Vecchio cheese and your bologna pieces. Okay. So happy Halloween, everyone, and I hope whatever you do for that day, it is filled with joy and song, which is the traditional Halloween carols. Okay, and that you have a nice time. And remember to sort out all of your candies on your kitchen table, and or your meats or your cheeses. You might want to separate the meats and cheeses from your candies almost right away, because you don't want the wrappers to get greasy, and you don't want to put a bunch of Mars bars in the fridge. So, well, or I suppose you could. You could put them in the freezer, and that's a nice treat. But the point is, you want to keep that perishable food separate from the non-perishables, so that you can put the perishable food in the fridge. I mean, yeah, you could try to eat it, and that's scary in and of itself. But that's not the kind of scares we're going. E. coli isn't the kind of scares we're going for. Although I suppose if your food was infected with E. coli, no amount of refrigeration is going to keep you safe. Think about that this Halloween night.